Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Let's see. So today's CFE community chat is our 13th since April, and it's the third of our fall engagement series. So we are so happy to have you all with us. You're welcome to keep your video off. We would love for you to put it on if you feel comfortable doing that. We're not sure how big the group will be today, but it probably will be small enough for us to interact a bit. So if you feel comfortable having your video on, certainly do that. We also know how busy and extremely exhausted you must be after work every single day. And we're just so happy that you chose to spend a little bit of time with us today. We have a wonderful presenter and I think really topical stuff. So I'm excited to share her and all of her knowledge with you. Really quickly, for those of you who aren't very familiar with CFE, I'm Sarah Hoppy Knight. I'm the co-executive director of the organization. We're a Chicago-based education nonprofit that's been around for more than 35 years, supporting and funding CPS educators so they can best serve their students and continue to grow in their profession. In a typical school year, which this is not, of course, but in a typical year, we award about 400 grants and fellowships to CPS pre-K through 12th grade educators. So that's a little bit about us. And a few quick notes before we get started. I know everyone's really familiar with video calls and chatting and things like that, but just try to keep your microphones muted throughout the actual presentation part of the meeting. If you have questions during the presentation, just pop them in the chat box. I'll keep a running list and then we can go through some of them at the end of the presentation today. The session is being recorded and it'll be posted along with Dianna's resources. She has a ton of them to share on our website within the next few days. And Kayla, one of our CFE staff members, will be popping some things in the chat, our website and things that you can use to continue to connect with us after today's session's over. So let's get into it. Our presenter today is Dianna Balcken. She has a BA in elementary education, reading and special education endorsements from the University of Akron and a master's in English as a second language. She started her education career with the YMCA as a preschool teacher, swim instructor and coach, and camp aquatics instructor. She's been teaching for over 15 years and has taught a wide range of grades from pre-K to 4th. She's currently teaching full-day remote preschool at Armstrong Elementary in CPS. And when she's not teaching, she's actively training for triathlons and embarking on backpacking adventures. And I will add, teaching herself technology. She's like a total pro, taught herself everything, which is amazing. You'll hear it all today. And with that, I will turn it over to Dianna.
Awesome. Hello. Glad that you guys are here. Hopefully the things that I give you are going to be helpful. I know that Sarah thinks I'm an expert, but I am not. There are quite a few things that I am learning that I don't know. So what I wanted to do today is kind of break this down into the things that I learned piece by piece by piece that kind of build on each other so that you're able to kind of start somewhere and see kind of where the future is. So there are several pieces. Some of it you might already know how to do, and some of it just links to the stuff that you already know how to do. So I'm going to get started right away so that I have time to share with you everything. But that's kind of how I did it. Is I started with the most basic things. So I'm going to share my classroom and what I started with. So the first thing that all of us experienced when we started with remote learning with CPS is having to use Google Classroom. And not really having any other options. So Google Classroom is something that hopefully, if you're familiar with CPS, that's what you're using. Some of us, if we're not in CPS, might be using something called Canvas. It's very similar. But this is the main page for my classroom. You'll have yours looking a little bit different. You will notice that this is the code that a lot of you might be using to do your meets with your students. I do not share it with my students. And that was one of the first things I taught myself how to do. Sharing that link makes it easy for you to have one group of students in one space. But before the breakout rooms, if you ever wanted to have them break out, or if you ever wanted to send them somewhere else, that wasn't possible. So my parents actually have no idea what this link is because they've never seen it. What they have seen is if I go into my classwork, I've sorted my day into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday links. And the way that you do that is when you go to create, you're creating topics, and then you can make your topics anything you want. Like this is my ACT home practice, so this would be my asynchronous learning, and I'll show this to you in a second. My students also have gym, so I made a gym section for them. And then the best part about this is anytime that the days change, upcoming week, when we don't have school on Tuesday or Friday, my parents will know that, because when they go to Tuesday, there won't be anything here. And that kind of helps them to remind themselves, we don't have any school today. Same thing, you'll notice that a lot of my students have one-on-ones. So for Tuesday's one-on-ones, they'll be rescheduled under a different day. I can see everything that's here. My parents can only see what their students are scheduled for. So if I take a look at Monday, we have whole group at 10, and then we have all of these one-on-ones. So for example, Jimmy can only see this assignment, whole group, and his one-on-one. He cannot see the rest of this, which makes it very easy for parents to know what's coming up. What am I supposed to be doing today? They know what assignment is due, it's there. They know what we have for class, and then if you have any additional information, you can put that under there as well. It's definitely been helping my parents to kind of organize, especially if they have multiple students at home that are on different other, learning environments. They know when to come back to me. And a lot of times if they set it up to this point, their students now know that all they need to do is click this button and click this button in there to me. The other thing for Google Classroom and for CPS, and I would say for anybody, this link right here is called a safety link, or at least that's what the terminology we're using. It's a link that only opens when I'm in it. If I, the teacher, do not enter this room, no one else can get in. When I leave, if the room is empty, everybody cannot get back in. So that's what they were asking us to do at the beginning of the year, and they weren't very clear about it. Normally, we open a calendar invite, we invite everybody to the calendar invite, and then we post that, and everybody knows how to get in. If you're using a calendar invite, anybody can come in and out of that meeting anytime they want to if they have that code. That's why this is a safety link. So in order to do it, I can't in here, no worries. So this is what you would do. You'd type g.co/meet/ and then you can name it anything you want. What I like about this is it tells you once you're in that meet where you are. So I know that when I click on this, I'm going to be in 110's whole group. What's helpful to me is if I'm in one-on-ones, I can make sure that I'm in the right child's one-on-one because it says their name in the bottom corner because that's what I've named it. Okay. You can link class just like this. So this is just a classroom link as a material. You can also link assignments. So this morning, I decided to link an assignment to my students' one-on-ones. So I have the link for their one-on-one, and I also linked an assignment. And the way that you do that is pretty simple. You can add from your drive. You can link like a virtual classroom, and I'll show you how to do that. You can link a file if you've got like a worksheet you want them to do, or you can link different files from like the computer itself, and you can also link a YouTube video. So this way, when this parent comes into this one-on-one, everything they need is here. They don't need to go anywhere to look for it. The other thing that my parents experience is something called Jamboard. I know that Google just put out whiteboards inside the Google Meets, but before they had that, they had Jamboards. Let's see if I can get it. There, unfortunately, there we go. So Jamboards are like virtual whiteboards, and we use these for one-on-ones for students because it individualizes education. So I put in here where I think my students are at and the activities that they're using. Granted, my kids are in preschool, so these are a little low. And it also has been nice to give them some feedback, some positive, these are just stickers, but every time they work with us, we give them a sticker. But these are the activities that they're being asked to do. This student is actually exceptionally high. I asked her to write the alphabet, so she did. but you can also put in pictures. So I put in this tens frame, but you could put in a map. You could put in, we have lined paper in here also. You could put in lined paper. You can use sticky notes. Put sticky notes in here. So this is just something that I use in order to individualize education for my students. And this I could also add to that Google Classroom page. It used to sit right here. Okay. Hold on one second. Learning curve for me, sorry guys. So the other thing that I know a lot of people are interested in is something called a virtual classroom. So this is the virtual classroom my students currently have. It's under at-home practice because it's their asynchronous learning. Let you take a look at it. So we're on our music unit at the moment. So this would be something that would be the next step. So if you're already able to link in Meets, and you're already able to link in maybe questions and forms into your Google Classroom, this would be the next step. What I did is I looked on, Facebook has a wealth of information. Basically, if you go into Facebook and you type in Bitmoji classrooms, there are Bitmoji groups for every grade level. And this just happens to be from the primary one. And I rearranged it a little bit. So that's what I want to take a look at next. One second. There we go. Thank you guys, I'm not as familiar with Zoom. So I'm going to go to my files and take a look at the same classroom we just looked at. The majority of these resources have been pulled from online. Like I was sharing with Sarah, unfortunately, because they are not mine, I don't feel very comfortable sharing them. Like I said, you can definitely go to Facebook and Google Bitmoji Classrooms and find all of these resources. There are a ton of wonderful people out there that are willing to share their resources with us, and you can pull them from that way. But that music classroom that I had actually started something like this. So I pulled this classroom as my background for what I wanted to start. And I built it into this. So a couple of things that you can learn very simply for doing Bitmoji classrooms. You can do something as simple as this library wasn't in this file. So the way that it got here is the same way you would do text. I copied it from wherever it was and I pasted it right here into this section. So it's just like regular text. I went to this library that I got from Facebook. I cut it from here and I pasted it over into, in here into this classroom. Somebody was asking how then do I link this library with my front page? This is the library. So this links to that slide. There's a quick way to do it. The way that you quick link is to hit Control K. I will say that there are some things that you have to hit Control K because it will not link. It does say up here to insert a link, but for some reason there are some items, if they're not solid in the room, like a lot of times text boxes, you need to hit Control K because it won't have that link for you. And once you do that, it'll ask you what you want to link. I'm linking to a slide in this presentation, so I could put in any slides I want from anywhere else I wanted. I can make a whole stack, and I'm going to show you that into my my other virtual classroom. But you can also link other classrooms, other documents, by just pulling that document, that link from up here, or if you publish it to the web, which is something you're going to want to do if you're sharing it with families, you'd pull this link, and this is what you would put in that link box. Okay. So I'm going to go to my classroom. Right now we're currently on the music unit. So my regular virtual classroom is pulled down so that they can play in the music room. So this is what my regular classroom looks like. This is where all of my asynchronous learning is happening. And this would be the first step, I think, after you do your Google Classroom Monday through Friday. You can make a simple page like this that doesn't ever change, that has a link to your reading assignment, your math assignment, whatever other assignments that you want. This is maybe the bulk of what you're talking about that week. Here's your links for your other outside resources that you would use online. We use RazKids, we use Starfall, we use ABC Yeah. I have a parent's place in mind because I do have preschool students, but this could be a calendar. This could be a list. Right now what it is a list of assignments that my students are responsible for finishing. And you can put anything that you want on this first page, and then slowly but surely build the rest of the pages. So at the very beginning, when I first started this classroom, I don't have any blank pages anymore because I've learned. At the very beginning, the first couple pages were pretty blank like this one is. And I've slowly but surely kind of built them into more and more pages. So this is how I did that. If I take this slide, actually I'm going to take this one. If I take this slide and I duplicate it, I get a brand new slide to play with, right? So now I can take this slide and delete anything I don't want and bring it back to that regular floor space that I had before. And this is how I've been doing it. It's a little cumbersome, but if you build a slide every week or so, by the end of that, you're gonna have a lot of slides. So maybe I want to turn this slide into, I don't know, we'll go with phonics. So now I have a brand new slide, brand new space to work in, but now I need things. So there's a couple things you can do. You can go to the Facebook Bitmoji classrooms and pull from there. There's a ton of author study resources you can use. Sorry, I'm bouncing around, guys. So these are all the author studies that I've collected through looking through the Bitmoji classrooms. So let's say this new phonics room, I want to have focus on No David. All of these are links with the picture of the book in front. And I can do the same thing that I did with the slide. I can click on it. I can copy it. I can go back to that room that I made and I can paste it. There it is. And I can put it on the shelf for my kids to read. That's pretty much how all of the rest of these rooms got made. So this room is our phonics room. We just started syllables, so I went and it picked up all the ABC books I wanted to use, and then I added the syllable videos I wanted. And I also picked up some letter sound videos that I wanted. These are pictures that have links to them. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But that's very much how this room got built. It was as plain as that other room, and I just slowly but surely added a library, and then slowly but surely found other people's rooms that had links to these manipulatives. You can find these manipulatives in inserting an image and searching the web. The trick that I have found, though, is if you want a specific object, looking in Google Images is difficult. Anything clip art is going to be easy to find, but anything specific like these cubes from Lakeshore are going to be difficult. When you're looking for something in Google, you want to make sure that you put in transparent, because it means it'll sit in the background. It won't skew anything that you have present. So if I want to put in a transparent cat, put this cat in there. You can see how you can see the background through my cat. That's what it means to be transparent. But you can also use images just like you would normally from Google. You can go to Google image search, find an image that you like or that represents what you're trying to show students, and you can enter it in here, which is basically all that these are. Then you do that Control-K like we were talking about before, and you add that link. So this is a link to the letter match for ABC, yeah. Okay. You can also insert video. I really like this feature after starting because instead of having to go to YouTube, parents can watch the, well, students can watch the video inside your classroom. They don't have to go to YouTube. So if I put this video in here, instead of having to click and go to YouTube, students can watch this straight from here. So that takes that ad issue out. I know a lot of parents don't like using YouTube because it has all those ads at the side. This will take out that issue. It's a little tricky to do when you're doing the library. The reason that music library got changed is because the links to it, it was just too overwhelming to see all these little circles. And it was very difficult for students to kind of click on the stories. So that's why I switched it over. So I would definitely recommend if you're going to do a YouTube video, being able to make it bigger. Because if it's too small, these little circles get really hard to see. Then you can't see what you're actually linking to. So that's a little bit about how to make a Bitmoji classroom and how to use Google Classroom. So I'm going to take a look at some questions because I'm going to switch to something different. And I want to make sure that all of the questions for Google Meet are handled, and then kind of see where you guys want us to go. Cool. Looks like we're doing pretty good. So I want to make sure that I've gotten everything on here. So, yeah. The other thing that I learned that's really helpful for my parents is in turning in assignments, one thing that they were struggling with is most of our students are being given Chromebooks from CPS. It is very easy on an iPad or your phone to take a picture of your homework and turn it into Google Classroom. What's not so easy is if you're using just the Chromebook, how do you take a picture of your work? So I'm going to walk through that just because that's something that I know that my parents really had a good feedback from. In fact, they all switched over to that even though they have phones. So let me click out of some of these that have some space. Thank you guys for patience. Okay. The other thing that I might also recommend is this classroom down here is my classroom from last year. We keep it open because we play in it. Great way to work on things when you don't want anybody else to see them. This is my co-staff. Hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing. But if you invite teachers into this classroom that doesn't actually exist, then you can play in this environment where there's not really anything that's going to go wrong. So that's why I have lots of classrooms. Let's go into classroom. So if I'm turning in an assignment, let's see if I can do it. Let's find an assignment. Sorry, this is an assignment late week for my parents because I've been really mean to them lately, giving them lots of assignments. So, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I can't turn an assignment in here at the moment anyways. Let's do it this way. In a Google Doc, and I wish that I could show you this. I'll show you the sheet that I gave my parents. This is something that we've been struggling with as a team. If we aren't a student in a classroom, we don't have a student perspective. So unfortunately, I can't show you all the tiny steps that it takes to put this in and submit into Google Classroom because I'm not a student in anybody's classroom. So I can still show you how to do it. So there is, when they hit that turn in button, there's an option to create a document. That's what we're in right now. We're in a document. They can click on that document. This is where it'll take them. You can insert an image. And right down here where it says camera, let's see if it'll do it while I'm in Zoom. Right down here where it says camera, yeah, it won't. It'll take a picture right from your camera just like we are in Zoom right now. And it'll put that picture right on this document. And then they can turn that document in. So that's something a lot of my parents were struggling with when I was asking them to turn in assignments. They didn't have the ability to do that because they didn't have a way of taking a picture. But if they're in that Google assignment, it's really easy because it has that little blue icon for them. And they can take a picture and put it right on the document and then submit it right from there. Here we go.
Diana,
so this is definitely, yes.
Sorry, there's a question that came in through the chat that I thought was kind of interesting.
Sure.
So Daisy was wondering, she said she's trying to make Google Classroom easier for non-readers. A lot of them don't have the parental support. So any ideas there? I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later, but I know this is a question we got ahead of time too. So just at any point, if you want to sort of address that, if you can. You're on mute.
Thank you. Part of what's going on is a lot of the Zoom features when I'm in presentation are disappearing on me. So sorry about that. So I'm going to go through this and then, yeah, I'll touch base on that. Absolutely. So this is kind of what it looks like. I can definitely share this with Sarah to share with you guys, but this is what my parents were able to use in order to turn that in. And like I said, once they were able to do that, I've gotten probably almost 100% more, almost 100% of my assignments are turned in. For non-readers, the biggest thing that I can say, a lot of my preschool students are starting to be able to use these things on their own because of the way that it's set up. So if you set it up so that it's the same place every time or the same color every time, then you can teach your students, if you can't read the word reading, you can, sorry, I keep forgetting that my classroom isn't in there. You can know the color red. So if this was a kindergarten or a first grade classroom and I knew I had some struggling readers, I could say to them, okay, reading in red, click on that when we go to asynchronous. So if we're taking a break and we maybe have a lesson and then we're going to asynchronous, I can say, okay, click on the red and play in the reading room, or click on the orange and do some math. And then what you need to do is be able to create some slides that have activities that will play for them. So like this one will sing a song for them, sing a song for them, sing a song for them, and show them how to do one. So for those of us that are teaching primary students and we're on numbers, I might send my students to the number 1 and have them write a 1, draw me something that's 1 while I was working with another group. So if you make the front page of your classroom the same, it makes it really easy for them to be able to start to navigate on their own, which is what I'm seeing. Same thing with my Google Classroom. My students, probably half of them at this point, could get to class by themselves just because they know to look for Monday, which starts with M, and they know that they click on that first thing. Those would be my suggestions. The other thing I would suggest is using things that have lots of things to click on, like our library. So this is our library. A lot of this is just click and listen. So maybe I'm doing a listening center or a listening asynchronous activity where I ask the students to click, listen, and draw. And they can click, listen, and draw to pretty much any story, or draw the setting, which is something that we'll work on soon in our pre-K classroom. But yeah, that would be my suggestion as far as non-readers, is to find a way of teaching them the basics or the procedures of the front room of your classroom so that they can then get to the clicking things from the other parts of the classroom. So hopefully that answered that question. So the other thing I wanted to show is how to not necessarily be overwhelmed by making your own classroom. So when I made my own classroom, you start as a Google slide, blank presentation. It's just like PowerPoint for those of you who are more familiar with PowerPoint. Once I learned that, it got me a lot more used to using it. The thing that I'm finding the most frustrating for myself is when I go to insert images from Google, I don't always get what I want. So what I've been doing is finding those classrooms in the Bitmoji Facebook rooms and holding on to them and finding pieces that I like. So somebody was actually even nice enough, and maybe I can share just these with Sarah, but somebody was nice enough to make a whole group of pictures and pieces, mostly for primary, sorry, of things that you can pull out. So I can take any of these pictures and put them in my classroom. Same thing with backgrounds. So we're going to go find a background and we're going to build a room, because I know a lot of people are very interested in how that works. Let's find a room from here. So basically what I'm looking for is a background that I like. Which one of these rooms looks good to me? Because I'm going to take everything out of it and I'm going to make my own. I actually made this library, so I'm going to take it. This is one of my favorite authors, so I just was able to make this library. It's not perfect, but I like it. So I do the same thing. I'm going to copy this slide. I'm going to go back to my blank slide and I'm going to paste it in here. So if you find something that you really like or you think that you can use, you can borrow it and then you can empty it, which is basically just deleting everything you don't want. Ah, I see what happened. So now I have a blank slate. So let's say I want to teach my students about community. There's some really cute community puppets. I cut them, I paste them, put them right here on the shelf. Maybe you need to make them a little bigger. Put them right there on the shelf. So now I want to link that to something. I want the kids to click on this and I want it to take them somewhere. So I can go to my social studies classrooms that I found. Like I said, all of this 5 to 10 minutes every day on Facebook. Got this really cool community room. Thank you guys for bearing with my slow computer. Same thing, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to this other room. I'm going to paste it. And there it is. I need to link it. So I'm going to do that same thing as before. I'm going to do Control K just because it makes my life easy. This is a slide in my presentation. It's slide number 2. So I'm going to link it to slide number 2 and apply. Now if my kids come here and they click this, they're going to get taken to this slide. So for that same question before, what do you do with students who are unable to read? You can ask them to click objects. That'll take them to places. And you can just build and build and build into this. That's what I did in my regular classroom for math. So I built this shelf. I cut and pasted all of these pictures, and each of these pictures takes them to the corresponding slide for that number. I highly recommend, I know it's cumbersome, but I highly recommend keeping your classroom all in the same space. What I mean by that is I could have linked this one to this presentation outside of this classroom. It becomes very difficult for parents when the internet isn't working, when you're going from one application to another. It's much easier for the computer, for the internet, and for parents to keep it all in one space. So if ever it's possible, pull the slides from whatever you want them from and put them into the same slide situation. And same thing, when I go to post this for my parents, I'm going to publish it to the web. I'm going to pull this link and I'm going to go to my classroom and post it. Add link. And there's my link. I'll be in my classroom in a second. Maybe. There we go. So like I said, you're not going to be able to do all of this all at once. And I think that that is part of what's going on. A lot of us are trying to do everything all at once, and it's not possible. Try and do it piece by piece. Think of the thing that you're going to get the most use out of and shoot for that. So like I said, would start with that schedule in your Google Classroom. Start with maybe one slide, a theme slide on whatever it is you're talking about. Maybe it's community, maybe it's transportation, maybe it's fall. And then as you feel comfortable using that slide and those YouTube links or those website links, see if you can add another slide where you're linking the first slide to the next slide, and so on and so forth. Or making that first page where you link to just the reading assignment. When I first started, all that reading assignment was read with your child. And the math assignment was count to 10. And that's all it said on that slide. It didn't say anything else. And slowly but surely I was able to work on each of those until I was able to get the classroom that I have right now. So that's as much as I can share at the moment with Bitmoji Classrooms. There is lots and lots and lots of classes that you can take. Pretty much everything I know I learned on YouTube. So if you decide that there's a thing you want to learn how to do, if you put it into YouTube, I guarantee that there will be people out there that will show you. My personal favorite is called Pocket Full of PreK. She's wonderful. I love her. There's a couple other ones that you can look at. You'll kind of get a sense of who you like as you go through all the YouTube videos, taking a look at how to do things. My next adventure is to try and figure out how to do audio. I haven't done audio yet, but that's my next adventure. Once again, I'm going to take a look at the slides. I'm going to show you a couple more things that I have ventured into now that I know what I'm doing a little bit, and then we'll have time for questions. The parent instructions that I have, I will definitely send to Sarah so that you can have them because I made them, so I'm fine to send them. Not everything in a virtual classroom has a link. It doesn't have to. That's your choice. You can link it or not link it. I really like sending my children off on goose hunts and saying what links, what doesn't. My new thing is to hide the pumpkin. So I hide the pumpkin in one of the rooms in my classroom, and the next day I ask my kids, did you find it? That way too, it gets them to go in there. A lot of times they want to, but their parents don't know that that's an option for them. So I ask them what room was the pumpkin in. Most of the slides, like I said, that are in there are from Facebook groups. It's amazing to me how much people are sharing and how much they're willing to create and send out there. If you really want to be nice, please make sure that you make a copy of anything that you get from Facebook groups. And actually that's what I'll start with, because that is the other reason that some people are a little hesitant to share. If I were to share something with you and you don't make a copy of it, you are now manipulating information that I have that I'm presenting to my parents. And I've had that happen to me several times. So make a copy. If you're sharing with somebody else, make a copy of a copy. So if you have something, make a copy of it and share the copy, not your own. Because what will happen is that virtual classroom that I'm sharing with my parents, if I were to send that link to you, you can now change what my parents are seeing, and that becomes a problem. So I'm going to show that for you first, and then I'm going to show you the more advanced stuff that I've learned how to do that has been so fun, and it's not as hard as you think it is. I felt the same way, but This morning we played a fun pumpkin game and it was absolutely worth it. So let's do the sharing part first. So I'm in my classroom or my Google slide presentation, whatever, however you want to see it. Over here under file, it says to make a copy. You make a copy of the entire presentation, and it's going to then be called copy of whatever it is. So anytime you get something from someone, please make a copy of it, because I want to share with the rest of you guys. I really do, but I did it incorrectly twice. And because I didn't make a copy of a copy and share it correctly, my stuff then got manipulated. Totally my fault. I'm learning. But it also helps the person who's sharing with you to keep that from happening. So the last, whoop, oh no. Sorry guys, still there? Okay, sorry. The last few things I want to share are things that I have just recently learned how to do. They seem harder than they are, I promise you. I kind of saved them until now. I was hoping to get them in sooner. But there is a way of making slides to assess or have your kids play. The trick is that you have to make a copy for every single child. So let me show you what I mean. So I got these this morning from a wonderful person who teaches first grade. I do not know what state she teaches first grade in, but she's amazing. But it's an activity where all this is an insert of a picture of a tens frame, a text box with the number 3, a picture of a wagon, and then a ton of pumpkins. And the kids pick the pumpkin up, not the wagon, the pumpkin, and they put 3 of them in here. My kids loved this today. They were so happy. The trick is that once you make this, you have to make it for every single one of your students, which I know that's a lot, but it's not. Because remember, we know how to make a copy. So you make a copy of the entire presentation, you rename it the next kid's name. Make a copy of the entire presentation, you name it the next kid's name. And then what you need to do is share it with that child by using their email address and making sure that they're an editor. So I made these for my students this morning. Took me about a half an hour to get it all done, and that's mostly because it was my first time doing it. The other trick to these is that once they're done, they're not reset. So a lot of times I'll come into their Jamboards, and I'll show you that again in a second, and reset them. And all that means is there's a spider here. I just put them back. So now if Graham wants to do this again, it's just reset. With as much joy as my kids got out of this, I know it's going to take me a while to reset these things, but it's not difficult to move these spiders, and they enjoyed it quite a bit. So I am fine with having to reset them if that's what they enjoyed doing. And then it's pretty easy to make your own. So I have a couple more that I can show you. Reset the rest of that later. So for those of us teaching upper grades, and by upper I mean first grade, I don't have anything much higher than that, sorry. But you can make things like this one is for building hundreds, tens, and ones. So I can pull 100, pull tens. So I would just be making a copy of this for every single one of my students and asking them to make these numbers. It's a really great way to make assessments. I know that it's difficult to understand if the child is doing it independently, but if you use it as an assessment while in a meet, it's pretty easy to hear if they're getting any help. This one is to make, there's several of these out there. I like this one because I like Toy Story. This one took a little bit of work, so I greatly appreciate the person that put the work into it because they had to print every single one of these letters is a text box. But you can pull them to make this word, and then this is a text box down here that allows the child to write that word. So there's so many opportunities and things that you can do. Pick one thing that you want to try. And when you get good at that, then pick another thing. And when you get good at that, then pick another thing. And the more that you learn, the more that you go through that process, the easier it is to learn more and do more. Okay, so that is about all that I have. I want to double check my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything that I think is important, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions. If you want me to go back to something that you specifically need, I can show you a little bit more in step by step, because I know that's a lot of information. But like I said, piece by piece, pick something new that you want to try. And I always tell my parents, like today when I put those slides in there, it was the first time we've ever used them. But because they're used to Jamboard, it was no big deal for them to click on that and know what they were doing, which was amazing. They've learned technology, and I've put it into my classroom in a way that if I decide to throw them a curve, like Monday throwing pumpkins at them, they're able to adapt, which is great. But piece by piece. So give me 1 second. Oh, that's what I wanted to finish with. Thought I looked at my notes. A lot of us are not wanting to do too much investment in working on these things because we're going to go back in person at some point. I know all of us think that this is taking forever, but it's not forever. It's for now. So at some point, we are going to be back in the classroom. And why make all this work and all these new things if I'm never going to use them again? Because you might. The author study rooms in particularly, I feel like there's so many applications you can use those for in a listening center or with an author study. My students love author studies. Pete the Cat, Llama Llama. I've introduced them to my favorites like Ted Hill and Mo Willems. They can click on those stories, their favorites, the ones we're trying to get them to enjoy, and listen to them as many times as they want to. Same thing with those mini assessments. If you took the time to make a mini assessment where they're moving pumpkins or they're moving spiders, you have that for forever. So if a child is in your classroom and you want to know if they know how to use a TENS frame, give them an iPad, have them do that activity. And now you have documentation, you have an assessment on where they were then and where they are now. The theme rooms, I think, also give us a lot of resources that we don't normally have, and they're all in one place. So if I'm doing community, I can share that with my students, and we can take a look at all the community resources that are out there on one page, rather than traditionally what I would do is go into YouTube and type in community or type in airplanes or type in transportation and kind of sort of get what I wanted. Now I can house everything I want on one slide, and when I'm ready to show it, I have it all in one place. So there are definitely applications for this when we go back in person. It's not wasted time and energy. So if anybody has any questions, go for it.
Yeah, and I would encourage people, can just speak. So you certainly don't have to go through me.
Right. I find this part funny because you're always like, did I do such a great job that nobody has any questions? Because I know that's not true. I know that I missed a bunch of stuff because I tend to go really fast.
I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, and great presentation, because I like what you said. The end staff is saying that this is wasted time, so I'm glad you said that. And I applied these techniques. But the one thing that I didn't know about was the Google Meet whiteboards. I'm at a contract school, so we don't have access to Jamboard yet.
Okay.
But I got this feeling, this sinking sensation with CPS managing us, that Google Classroom's coming into play. So could you explain the whiteboard portion of what you said, the Google Meet? I didn't know that was in there because I teach. So it'd be nice.
The issue, so I don't know if all of you have noticed, this is a lot of information, but I'll try and make it short. So Google is trying to catch up to us. And the way in which they're trying to catch up to us is they're making a bunch of stuff we asked for. And unfortunately, they're doing it a little too late. If they would have done it in the summer, all the interruptions that you and your students are experiencing right now, because I know you are, because mine are, wouldn't have happened. So what's happening is they keep pushing out these new things like the breakout room and the whiteboard. And they're pushing them out so fast that sometimes they're working and sometimes they're not. So as far as the whiteboard in Google Meet just came out. It was their addition to basically putting a Jamboard inside a Google Meet. I have not used it yet. If it works the same way it's supposed to work the same way as a Jamboard. It's basically like a whiteboard that everybody has access to. If you're working with students, be cautious, because think about it this way. if we were to take this computer screen and we were to let all 50 of you interact on that computer screen at the same time, it would be chaos.
Yeah, yeah.
So if that's something that you're interested in, PreK is probably your better option, because PreK does the same thing, but it does it individually. So rather than letting all 50 students collaborate on one slide at the same time, they collaborate on a slide that looks the same, all independently. Then you can see that what they're doing, you can record what they're doing, and you can choose what overlays. The free version of PreK will let you do that. Primary friends out there, the reason I don't have PreK is because most of the things that we would utilize in PreK come in the paid version. But that thing that you're asking to do, if that's what you want it for, I would highly recommend going through PreK. They have an amazing professional development hour that I learned in an hour how to use PreK, and I love it.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think PreK at CSTA, that was a pretty cool tool.
If you have Google, you have Jamboard.
Not exactly.
Really?
Yeah, okay, so the CPS, I'm alternative, right? So
right.
CPS, if you're fully CPS, you get access to it, and I have it because I go to a lot of CPS PDs. But when it comes to my other staff members, they don't even have a CPS identifier, so it's like blocked out. So I got staff members I want to introduce it to, but it's like, ooh, dang. So it kind of works.
Yeah. Well, and PreK will lie over Google Slides. So if you have Google Slides, PreK will lie over that.
That works, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because it doesn't lie over Jamboard, it lays over Google Slides. And they have a wealth of library stuff that you don't have to think of anything. You just click this and it'll lay over and you don't have to think of anything. Like it gives you questions for letters, for numbers, for addition. They have libraries and libraries and libraries.
Cool.
The other thing we use that I didn't mention is we use Flipgrid a lot too. I love Flipgrid for primary. So that question about what do you do for students who cannot read, Flipgrid is an ability for kids to make a video of, I usually keep mine to 1.5 minutes, but you can go up to 10 minutes. We started with introductions of ourselves, then we moved to our favorite color. Currently, I'm asking them to sing their favorite song. Next week, we're going to do fine motor manipulation, and I'm going to ask their parents to video them getting ready to go outside so I can see if they're ready to zip their coats, put their hats on and their gloves on. But it's another way that kids can share what they know if they're not able to type it. And my kids love it. It's inside my virtual classroom so the kids can revisit. And I have our like hello ones are at 100 views. So I know that they're going back to them.
I'm sorry, I got one more question. I thought about it. With the Google Slides, I'm assuming you've published like I have, right, before. Is there a way to make it function offline, like without internet? I got kids that might have internet issues. So I'm just wondering, is that possible or no? Like, can they?
There is a way of using it offline. I haven't done it yet, but it does ask you if you want to use it offline. But I think it's only the owner that is able to do that. So if you own it, you can manipulate it offline, and then when you're online, it'll come back to you. I understand the communication and the internet issue. I will say the Jamboard and the Google Slides, when you're out of a meet and you're in the slide itself, I'm still able to present. I had to do this today. So I had a parent, case in point, today who did not have internet. We've had this problem a lot, but she is able to get into those slides. So I sent her into the slides and then I write in the text the directions and she helps her child to do it. You could do the same for older students. Ask them to meet you on the next page. Ask them to count how many. Ask them to write whatever you want them to write. And you can see where they are, which is really nice because if you're not on the same page, you can see where that student is. You can go find them and tell them to meet you. Like my kids love this. Meet me on page 5. And so they look for the 5 and they click on 5 and then we meet each other. That's what I've been doing when I have internet issues because the slides and the Jamboard seem to work even when internet is intermittent.
Diana, somebody had asked in the chat if you could share your math room. Are you able to screen share again and do that?
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know if we mean room or resources, but I'll do room and resources. Hold on 1 second, they're in 2 different places.
And again, just a reminder, if anyone would like to do what Michael did and just verbally ask a question, we certainly encourage that. So feel free.
Helps me to know what you want to know. I have to delete the slide before. Well,
okay, I had a question or clarification. So I know you said you could link some things in your classroom. So for instance, the library. So you you built your library and you put the books in, and then you said there's a link, but that's where I'm getting lost. So the link takes me to that book. Is that what happens?
Yes.
Because that book is already out. So if I go to the group in Facebook, for let's say that, and they have this, and I put the cat, I can't see.
Pete the cat.
But, yeah, Pete the cat. And so I get that book from that Facebook group, and I put it in my library. Then if a kid comes in and they hit that book, that picture, it goes exactly to that book and will read to them. Is that what?
Correct. Yes. And that's where the time is. That's the time consumption. So these wonderful people are taking these pictures of these books. And to be honest, this is just a Google picture that gets cropped.
Right. Okay. But the link is what's live, and the link is what they click that, and then they can hear that instead of me trying to find the audio.
Right there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Very nice.
Also, for those of us who can code, if you don't understand this, please don't do it, because what will happen is you'll break all of your codes and then they will not work. But if you Google, sorry, let me try this again. If you YouTube how to embed, if you notice this book takes the whole screen, you're not seeing those ads on the side. It's because the word embed is in here. But you do need to watch a video to make sure that when you code this YouTube link, you put this in correctly, otherwise you'll break all your links. So if you don't know what that means, if you're not there yet, don't do it yet. But just know that it is possible to make the book the whole page. And some links do it and some links don't. So this is my math library. What's really fun is somebody pulled all these manipulatives. There's a site that lets kids play with literally any manipulative that exists. My kids love this stuff. So we've been patterning in here. We did patterns. My kids learned how to do patterns in here. We're now on addition. So they learned how to put 2 in here.
I'm sorry, quick question. So when you're patterning, do you ask a specific student to click on and give one child a chance, or you're making this whole slide shareable to each child, and then they submit their work?
So a couple answers to that question. When I'm teaching whole group or small group, I'm only ever really presenting from that classroom. And the reason I present from inside that classroom is to show parents, this is a resource that you have, this is where you can go get it. I don't ever ask students to be in the classroom during instruction, just because they're preschoolers and they can't do 2 things at once. They can't be both in the classroom and with me. So I'll present from within the classroom. I'll show them different things I want them to see. Case in point, we were doing numbers and how to draw the numbers. So I went to that slide and I showed them, look, you can go back to this and see how to draw your numbers. But otherwise, it's all asynchronous. So I will tell parents, go to the virtual classroom, go to the library, and pick a Pete the Cat story that you want to listen to. Or go to the math, make a pattern, turn it in. So yeah, no, I wouldn't ask them necessarily during class. The thing that I do during class is that Jamboard or that the interactive slides that I showed you with the pumpkins. The pumpkin stuff is new to me. I really, really like it, but it's gonna take me some time to learn what I want to present in that way, and then having to make the copies and send it out to each child, because each child will need their own copy.
And one more question. Since so the themes that you mentioned sound like strategic gold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, is there a website that, or maybe Chicago Foundation has on its website, a bank where they have these themes and the resources? No?
Not yet. And most of that is because Teaching Strategies Gold is not everywhere. And so the people that are creating those resources is us. And they just haven't been collected yet. You can go to, so you guys were asking what, I'm going to look, the Facebook group I'm with. It's a primary one. So those of you who are not primary, it's not really going to help you. There are second and third grade ones. I was in a older one, and then I hopped out of that one because it wasn't helping me out. Groups. So I'm in I'm going to put it right here. PreK-1 Bitmoji theme rooms is what I'm in. And that is where I'm finding you can search this site for creative curriculum, and you'll get some things.
Can you put it in the chat, please?
That's what I'm doing right now.
And maybe the other ones, we can pass them on to our colleagues and for first grade and second grade too.
This is the only one that I'm currently in still. And the reason why is it was just overwhelming. There was too much stuff coming and I couldn't keep on top of it. I will say that if you are starting out, try to only pick what you're going to use, because when I first started, it was just too many resources all at once. I didn't even know how to use it all. So then I pared down quite a bit to only what I needed. Okay, we're doing patterns. I'm only going to look for pattern stuff. I'm only going to pick up pattern stuff. And now I kind of have it sorted, so it's a little bit easier. But if you're going to start with one thing. So like right now, our next creative curriculum is going to be clothing. So maybe I'll look for some clothing rooms. Like I have community rooms that we'll put in there for that. Those math manipulatives came from math manipulative room from the pre-K Bitmoji. So once again, all you need to do is go to Facebook, join that group, and you can put in the search math manipulatives, and there's 2 normal math manipulative rooms that everybody's circulating around. Hopefully it helped. I know, like I said, I know it's a lot of information, but once you get started, like I said, the more that you learn, the easier it is to learn, and the easier it is to apply it.
Thanks, Diana.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question.
Sure.
So my classroom is set up, we do, for me, mentally, I do it by week. And then I put like I do quarter 1, week 7, then I put the reading and the math. But I like how you just did, okay, for this week, this is what's due Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What do you do with the previous weeks? Like, where do you store that?
At the bottom.
Yeah.
They're at the bottom of my classroom.
Oh, okay.
They're in a hole.
Okay.
I will show you, because that's literally where they are. I will say, I know that for us, quarterlies work better when we're trying to grade things, but for parents and for students, the #1 feedback is to have it by day. It really helps them out. So these are all my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, blah, blah, blah. Completed assignments. And they're all here. And you could even do, instead of labeling this completed assignments, you could label this week October 26th through 28th, or second quarter, or math. You could label it anything you wanted, but you just check your stuff down here. Like my gym teachers' old assignments are down here too, so that it's not so overwhelming to my parents. And once again, this looks like a lot, but my parents only see what's pertinent to them. So like, I only have this assigned to 4 students, so only 4 students get to see this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just saw the video that you were clicking on. Is there a way that we can upload our video onto the classroom without downloading it into our computer, then uploading it into the classroom?
Are you talking about a video that you might have recorded from a Google Meet?
Yes.
So all of those are going to get housed for you in a folder that Google creates. So you can pull them from that folder and link them inside. It's going to be easier for you. Let's see if we can do it real quick.
Can you walk us through one?
I'm going to try. Yeah, give me a second. I'm going to try. So, drive. Meet recordings. So these are all my parent meetings. I'm going to get a link for this one. There's the link right there for me. I'm going to copy this link. Okay. And then you do the same thing. That Control K is going to help you link anything you want. So we're going to make this beanbag take me to this place. If it decides to not be slow. Bear with me, my computer's going slow.
So you can also drop it into materials and onto your classroom. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to paste this, and now I'm going to apply it. So now if my parents go to this Pello, they're going to get this video. I don't want them to do that, so I'm going to unclink it.
Yeah, no, that's what do you have in that calm corner?
Oh, a really awesome room that has a Pikachu that all my kids are obsessed with.
Okay, sounds good.
I spent a lot of time in this room when I first started because it's got a fish tank, it's got a lava lamp, it's got the ocean, it's got bubble wrap.
Oh my.
But my kids really like this Pikachu.
Beautiful. How many hours did this take you?
So a lot of the picking up of things has just happened over 5 to 10 minutes every day. The learning curve probably took me 2 to 3 weeks to figure out how to get to where I'm at right now.
Okay, one last question. When we copy a slide and then paste it into a new blank slide, do all the links get connected too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what it's asking you, there's a little box that comes up and it says, do you want to link it? What it means is, do you want to link it to where it came from? No, you do not. Oh. So do not link it to where it came from. You don't want parents to go somewhere else. It just makes it harder. It makes the computer go slower, and with the way that our internet is for these students, you don't want them going anywhere they don't have to go.
But all the links would be, once you paste it into your new slide, all the links will work. Wow.
Yep. Because all those pictures, it's coding. All those pictures you've already coded with where you're sending them inside. And it all just kind of, when you copy the whole thing, that's what you're copying.
Sounds good. Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was wonderful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Hopefully.
Are there any last minute questions?
Looking forward to session 2.
I know, I've been thinking about that for the last 30 minutes. I'm like, we're gonna have to leverage you. So Kayla popped some information in the chat box from us. Our community chat section on our website will have the recording and the resources from this particular chat. Also, it has all 12 of the chats that we've had up to this point between April and today. And our resource roundup is another new section on our website that has tons and tons of resources that are categorized and organized, and we're updating it all the time. And so if you are looking for a new place to try to find some resources, we would recommend you check that out. And then if you go there and you see that we are missing something or some things, because I'm sure we're missing a lot, don't hesitate to let us know. We'd love to just continue to add to it. We want to make sure that we are providing our educators with the most helpful and robust resources and information we can. And so we hope that you will, Kayla just popped that resource roundup link in the chat too. So definitely keep track of us there and on social media. And Dianna, I just can't thank you enough. I thought this was so wonderful.
I'm glad.
Obviously, it was really helpful for those who attended, and will be helpful for a bunch of others who end up watching the recording on their own time. So I just, again, can't thank you enough. And so thankful for everyone who attended today. If you have any questions that weren't addressed, or ideas you have for future CFE chats, or anything else you'd like to discuss with us, please don't hesitate to reach out. Kayla, again, popped our email in the chat, and then you'll receive a follow-up email from me that will, again, direct you to the community chat section where you can see the recording and the other resources that Dianna suggested. We are exceedingly grateful for all you've been doing the past several months. We know it has been an uphill battle every single day. And our team at CFE will continue to be here for all of you in the days and the weeks ahead. So we just hope that you have nice evenings and you're able to have a little bit of space and find some calm. And we hope that you stay in touch with us. So Dianna, thank you so much again, and everyone for attending and sticking with us. And we will hope to see you and talk to you again soon.
I'm sorry, Sarah. Sarah, can you, 1 minute, please? Where on your website can we access those recordings? I just went to the website and I can't.
Yep, so Kayla put that community chat link in the chat box. We can resend it.
Community chat.
Yeah, so that link should take you directly to the community chat section of our website, which has all 13 of the